Welcome back. All right, up until this point, we learned that Diffie-Hellman Key Exchange provides for us a way to share a shared secret. I said share a lot there. Oh well. Now, we still need to authenticate. So right now, I could technically enter the password that was given to me by DigitalOcean, and it won't show up over here, but let's try that again. Password, copy and paste. And I'll keep the password the same. Oh, I have to change the password because they just gave me a temporary one. So let's just keep it nice and simple. Oh boy, they're asking a lot. All right, finally we're able to log in with our new password. But as I said before, that is a bit of a hassle. You don't want to do that every time. So using SSH, we're going to use something called RSA, which allows us to provide or prove the identity of the person without a password. Sounds like magic, doesn't it? Let's get that set up and show you how we can do that. So I'm going to exit out of here. Let's clear this for now. And I'm going to go into a folder that should exist on your computer. If not, you may have to create this folder, and the dot in front of it means that it's a hidden file. So you may have to allow hidden files to even be able to see it. But if I just open this, you'll see that, yeah, it's just a folder like anywhere else on my computer, in my root directory. And if I look at the files in it, I have a few things that you may not have because, well, this might be your first time generating an SSH key. In my case, I already have some keys, so there's some folders in there. Don't worry if you don't see them. Now, if you see an ID RSA file, if not, you'll have to generate one. So let's generate a key just like we talked about in previous videos. We're going to generate a public and a private key just for DigitalOcean. So that way, with this computer, with this laptop, I can communicate with the server out there in the world. The way we can do that, it's quite simple actually. We can use the SSH keygen command, which you should have on your computer. If not, you may have to install the CLI. We can give it a few parameters. There's a few that are recommended online. But for now, just to keep things simple, we can just do this with whatever your email address is. So in my case, I'm just going to do a test@gmail.com. Once you press enter, you'll get asked where you want to save the file. And you can see over here that it's saving it in my .ssh folder. But I already have an ID RSA. And I want one specifically for DigitalOcean. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this and name it DigitalOcean. So I know what the key is for. I'm going to press enter, and you have an option over here to enter a passphrase just for extra security if you want. In my case, I don't really want to, so you can just press enter, enter. And there you go. We've just generated a public and private RSA key pair. Very cool. And now let's clear this. If I look at my folder, I have the ID RSA DigitalOcean and ID RSA DigitalOcean.pub. Now, if this is your first time with SSH, remember this. If you remember anything from this section, that is this pub, which is a public key. You can share that with anybody that you want. But this ID RSA DigitalOcean, which is a private key, never, ever, ever share it with anybody. This is something that only you should keep on your computer. Never, ever share it. Otherwise, well, pretty much all your encryption will be useless. All right, cool. So we were just able to generate our keys. That's kind of cool, right? We can now copy this key and share it with our DigitalOcean server remember in the diagrams, we want to share our public keys by running the command, and we can find this online if you want. So don't worry too much about it. If you want to read up on what this command does, it pretty much just copies whatever's inside the ID RSA DigitalOcean .pub. Remember, only the public key that we're sharing. So I'm going to press enter here, and I've copied this to my clipboard. Now, if I go into SSH to my DigitalOcean server, see that I'm connected over here. By the way, if you're wondering why I was able to log in, this is because it's the same session. If I actually exit the session, it will ask me for the password again. For now, we can do the same thing on this server. We can make a directory called .ssh, just like we have on our computer. Oh, and I can't spell, so make directory. Oh, and looks like the SSH file already exists, so let's just do ls. And you'll see over here that I can't see it. That is because it is a hidden file, remember? So I'll have to do a -a to show our hidden files, which is .ssh over here. Very cool. Let me clear this. Now, if we go into our .ssh file, oh, and I cannot type. Let's try that again. All right, we're in our SSH. And if we look over here, we have already, just by default from DigitalOcean, known hosts and authorized keys. If you don't see this based on whatever server you have, you can just create the file. But for now, authorized keys is what we want. So we can use something like Nano, which allows us to edit text inside of authorized keys. Now in here, all we have to do is copy and paste our key that we had copied previously. So this is our public key from our desktop that we just pasted in here. With Nano, you can see over here to exit, you have to hit Command X or Control X. And then we want to modify and save. We'll press Y and then press enter. All right, so now if I do ls, I see that I have authorized keys, and in it, we have our public key. And if I exit now, well, let's try this. I'm going to SSH into my root folder, or let's end the session to make sure that it doesn't ask us for a password. And I'm going to see if I can enter it directly through SSH with our keys without having to worry about passwords. So let's close this. All right, so SSH. And you see here that we just got a permission denied. And that's a little bit tricky here. You may have this only if you're like me and in your SSH, in your SSH folder, you have multiple ID RSAs. So you want to make sure that it's using the right public key for this connection. So in our case, we can just simply do this command, which is ssh-add, and then grab the public key that we just used. And grab your private key, which you've created. Press enter. Oh, and you don't want to have you want this. All right, so my identity was added. So let's try SSHing again. And look at that. We have SSH'd into our box. We've proven that this is us, this computer belongs to us, and we have the authority to connect to the server and run any commands we want. All right, awesome. We've done all of this and you're asking yourself, I feel like I just wasted a bunch of time learning this and it doesn't really relate to web development or how I can set up SSH with GitHub. And that's easy to do, Andre. Why are you bothering me with this? Don't worry, we're going to tie everything together in the next video so you see why all this hard work is going to pay off finally when we finish up with this section. By the way, just for fun, just to see that this works, I'm going to, let's clear this actually. I'm going to go into my SSH folder. And if I go into the authorization keys or authorized keys, I'm going to delete this line. I'm going to save it. And then finally, I'm going to exit out of this, close my terminal, reopen the terminal over here. Let's clear this. Reopen the terminal over here, and let's try SSHing into our server. Permission denied, but let's do this command that we did before. We've added the identity. If we SSH, permission is denied because we no longer have our keys. We no longer share the public key with the server in the authorized keys folder. Now we see that we cannot SSH in anymore. By the way, DigitalOcean doesn't actually expect every one of their users to be able to know how to do this. They actually have a really nice, easy interface that you can use to add SSH keys, which actually works very similar with GitHub. So let's just copy our SSH key again that we created for DigitalOcean. And if I go to DigitalOcean over here, I can go to my profile, settings, and if we go to security, you see that they have SSH keys. I can add my SSH key, copy and paste, and we'll just name it test. Add the SSH key, which does the exact same thing that we did from the terminal, except, well, it looks nicer. You have a nice user interface here. All right, so there you have it. We're able to use all these tools: symmetrical encryption, asymmetrical encryption, hashing, in order to securely connect to a host and even be able to authenticate through SSH. So with all of that knowledge in mind, we're now going to look at our task at hand that Bruno asked us to do, and that is set up SSH with GitHub. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.